Hello, everyone, and very warm welcome to you, Sara and Nicola. And I am Karolina. I am a coach. I support women and sometimes also men in connecting with their deeper self and a sense of well-being and creativity and living from there and creating from there. And creativity is a topic that really fascinates me. That's why I started this conversation series. I called it Karolina's Creativity Cauldron. And I'm talking with people who inspire me, whose creations inspire me. And I want to learn about their creative process, how they create. And I chose people who create in a way that, at least in my eyes, is kind of infused with magic, that is a true expression of their unique light, of who they truly are, and also creates real results in the world that others also can enjoy. So once again, very warm welcome, Sara and Nicola. And you are the founders of When Women Speak, a beautiful global community that whenever I visit the group or the page, I get a feeling there, kind of certain feeling of being welcome to be myself. And there is a feeling of energy and huge acceptance. So I'd love to ask you, maybe if you could say a couple of words about yourselves first, and I want to ask about When Women Speak after. So Sara, who are you?
Pick me first. Okay, so a couple of words about me. Oh my goodness. The first word that bubbles up is nurturer. And the other word that's there right now is fire. So a nurturing fire.
Wow.
Which I guess that I'm kind of seeing that in two ways. I'm seeing that in a way of come sit by the fire and there's warmth here, but I also see it as a fire that will burn away everything that's not needed. It will bring newness, and it's hot.
Of course. Wow, I think that's the most original introduction, the most original way someone introduced herself that I've heard in a long time. Wow, I love it. A fire, nurturing and also purifying, and hot fire. Great. Thank you, Sara. And Nicola, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah. I am Nicola. I consider myself to have been in the past a coach. I don't necessarily consider myself that anymore. What I consider myself to be now is the bigger parts of my life that are present are custodian of When Women Speak, is a phrase that we feel just resonates really well with how it arrived, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit, and what it felt like when it arrived and what it feels like now, and mother and wife and woman, and creator. And that is not something that I considered myself until very recently, so I'm really excited about this conversation.
Wow, also such beautiful words. Custodian of When Women Speak, and a mother, wife, and creator. Wonderful. Welcome, very welcome. And I would love to share how was it that When Women Speak was born and has been growing? And either of you, I'd like to hear from both.
It's interesting having us both here at the same time, because it's there will always be different perspectives, won't there? So even though it's something that we've co-founded together, we've arrived in a way at different times too. Yeah, so it's interesting. So since I've already started speaking, I'll carry on for a moment. So way back, it must have been 5 years ago, I was at an event where I just had this feeling of there must be this kind of balance between a kind of formal networking scenario for women in business, where it felt a little bit, it's polite and pleasant, and people were there wearing their suits, or where in a way presenting themselves in the way that they thought they should look, and speaking in a way maybe a businesswoman would speak, whatever that, you know, your idea of that is. But I also had the privilege of being involved in like women's circles and goddess kind of retreats and things like that, where it's very much free flow and barefoot and dancing around fires and chanting, and not business like at all, and business not even spoken. And I just wondered, surely there's a meeting of that sense of freedom permeating everything we do. Why do we suddenly become something different in a different environment? And that just really intrigued me. And yeah, that's where I'll leave it for now to see what Nicola brings in.
So I held an event back in, was it 2017, or when was the first one, or 20?
No, 2018. They were both January and March 2018.
So Sara was my coach when I held that event. We'd met about 9 months previous, I think, in my Facebook group, and the way things unfolded, Sara was my coach for 5 months, and my event fell in this time we had together, and it was called the Freedom Factor. It was for women in business. And I had obviously an event prepared and lots to say and teach. And what unfolded during that event was the most extraordinary thing, was a very natural shifting of who was the one that we were all there to listen to. And it turned out that it wasn't me. That what happened was, it began as me, but because there were so many women in the room that needed to kind of explore what was being offered, they needed a space to be able to talk it through as it was happening, what we were discussing, which was kind of the nature of experience, really, you know, which obviously feeds into business, but it wasn't especially like, this is how you do Facebook ads, this is how you make your first £10,000 a month. It was the nature of experience. So they really needed to process it. And then what happened was, each woman in the room started to speak up and share what she was seeing, and it was just absolutely extraordinary. It became a completely kind of level playing field of, this isn't the Nicola Snoad show. This is, we're all here together exploring, and it's beautiful. You know, there was a real shared experience, a shared narrative that came up, even though everything that everyone was saying was so different, you know, such different experiences. And I was messaging Sara throughout, and I told her, you know, that it was just extraordinary. And I said, there's groups like this of women have got to happen, because what I noticed was this didn't need to be about me. There didn't need to be someone in that room telling them that they're the most important person and that they know how to do things and nobody else does. And that's when Sara said, funnily enough, 5 years ago, I thought a similar thing. And when women speak, the reason why we call ourselves custodians of it is because this kind of train just left the station at that point, or maybe 5 years before, when Sara had that, it left, and we were just on it, and we didn't really seem to have a choice in going for this ride. And we started to discuss the possibility of it. I think we ended up having a conversation with someone who was part of another organization. She told us kind of what that looked like, what these women's groups looked like that she held, and we were going to call it Be Seen, Be Heard, which is a bit naff. You know, there's nothing, I mean, in other scenarios, maybe it would be brilliant, but it really wasn't. And do you remember how frustrated I was, Sara? I just kept saying, I just don't know why I'm not taking action on this. I wasn't doing anything, you know. I wasn't moving forwards with creating. I was still, and it was called Be Seen, Be Heard. And then what happened was within the group, the Freedom Factor honestly was an event that just freaking kept giving. Within that group, one of the women shared a quite a traumatic experience that she'd had with all the other women in there. She just felt inclined to tell the story in there. She said, I don't know why, but I just want to tell this story in here. And one of my clients at the time watched the video, who had also gone to my event. And as we were having our client kind of one-to-one call the next day, she was telling me what she'd heard in this story shared by this woman. And my response to her was, oh, Claire, it's just when women speak. And then that moment, like, my heart leapt out of my body, and I think looked me in the face and went, there you go, there's the name, will you tell Sara? And so I messaged you instantly, didn't I? And said, it's when women speak. There we go. And then we started moving with it. Then, yeah, we were on board. We knew we were on the train and we weren't getting off, so we made ourselves comfortable.
Wow, I feel very touched and somehow enchanted listening to you. Like this movement started as a kind of sense or an idea, feeling in you, Sara, 5 years ago, and then you were Nicola's coach, and then Nicola had this event that didn't go as you planned. If I understand you correctly, you didn't plan that it would be such a level playing and women sharing, but somehow it happened because you were perhaps ready for it, and then the name came. I'm getting the sense like the When Women Speak was kind of born, and it was born through you. That kind of that it's something bigger that you together brought to life in a wonderful way. And other women also, for instance, the women from your event, Nicola, they were also supporting the birth by being the way they were. Wow, yeah. That's so beautiful and organic. Yeah. So, so what happened next when you knew that you knew already what you wanted, what was needed?
There was actually a year of grappling with what this is. And it's interesting that you mention that it felt like it was something being born, because actually what we've come to see is that it was more, a little bit more like the analogy that's often used of the a statue of David, where Michelangelo is basically saying, you all that you're doing is you're taking away what isn't David. And it was so, it feels like When Women Speak has always been there, but it just needed to be revealed. And we often lost sight of that during our kind of first year, where almost like we're like covering it back up again.
Yeah. Time's back on.
When really it was more needing to be taken off, revealing more of what's already there. And really that is the essence of what we share in When Women Speak, that it's going back to our essence, taking off all the layers, revealing what's there a bit. Well, maybe that's why I mentioned fire at the beginning, the burning away of everything that is not who you are, that is not creativity, that is not this creative force. So it feels like it wasn't something that was born, because it already was or is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah. So it's another angle from which we can look at creativity. It's not that we are producing something, but taking something away and discovering perhaps what's there.
Yeah.
So if you were to explain what are the layers that you've been taking and perhaps still are, what are they?
They are numerous.
And they're tricksy as well, because they trick you and you think it's a part of When Women Speak and it isn't.
Mhm. Could you give an example? I'm curious, what could it be? Something like that.
Well, there's certainly the layers of conditioning. So conditioning that from the society and culture that's around you. So a bit like, you know, if you a fish swimming in water, and if you ask how's the water, they like what water? They have no idea, because it is part of the environment that they can't even see it. So there's that going on. So some of these layers are once they're pointed out, it's obvious, but then isn't at at the same time. So yeah, so there's the conditioning from the environment, conditioning, ancestral conditioning as well. We definitely notice in when women speak, because that's another interesting point, is that sometimes we get asked why women, and it there is no, we don't have an answer to that. That's how it came to, it came to us as When Women Speak. But what we've noticed in our journey with When Women Speak is there is a lot of ancestral and a collective kind of wounding of women, or the feminine. Women being burnt at the stake for speaking out, being, if they happen to be intuitive and know kind of what medicines to use from nature, that they're branded a witch and killed. And there's a lot of that seems to still be in us as women and plays out in our day to day. But of course, we don't necessarily know that, because it's not in, we haven't, it's not even our, our mother and our grandmother, even our great grandmother hasn't been burnt at the stake. So it's kind of like, how strange that this kind of wounding, if you want to use that word, is still kind of there, playing out in how we might be fearful of speaking, so much so, like maybe even your throat goes dry, or it's fascinating.
And then what that can look like, what we've noticed quite a lot, is our tendency, and then many other women and people we know, to then add bells and whistles along with, to attach things. It's like the sticking the stones back on to kind of cover over who we really are. So we've done that within When Women Speak, within the organization itself. We've created multiple kind of courses and things, and that is like someone said to you the other day, didn't they, Sara, when you had a conversation, it would be ridiculous for us to chastise ourselves for that, because we are women expressing ourselves, and that's what expression happened to look like. Last year was all the things that we created, but the realization that we didn't need to hang all of those things on it, because actually the purity of us speaking while the shakes are happening, while the fear and the tears are there, for us to show up and actually say, like, this is our message, that it's about, or this is When Women Speak's message, and it is only about women speaking, full stop. We only realized that when, Sara, was it the end of last year? I mean, just before we started working with our current coach, I was like, holy shit, that's our message. And it had been over a year of being, the founders of When Women Speak, the custodians, whatever you want to call it. And it was only at that point that we realized, oh my God, this is about When Women Speak, full stop, or ... nothing else needed. Let's start from there. But that kind of, I feel like that was a bit reflective also of how it was a little bit blindsiding. That's kind of how it felt. And I don't know, Sara and I haven't really explored this. I think there's so much juice in this for Sara and I to talk about, but it was blindsiding. I had a business that I was running, so I closed that. So then there was a mourning process that happened with that, but it was very obvious that When Women Speak wasn't going. When Women Speak was like, you ain't got a choice, so sort everything else out, get your logistics in order, because you've got work to do.
Can I share with you what kind of feeling I'm getting when listening to both of you? I'm kind of trying to put myself in your shoes and imagine this moment when you realized that it's really not about creating so many courses and products and just removing and kind of reaching the purity of it, that this is only about when women speak. That I'm getting kind of double impression. First, it's kind of joy and excitement, like feeling of arrival. Yes, this is pure water. This is what I wanted to drink. I didn't want all this additives. I wanted fresh, pure water, and there's the gratitude. And on the other hand, like I was getting sense of like some sort of fear that might have to do with the wounding that you talked about, like oh my God, so is it enough? Yes. Will I be understood? Will I be respected and valued without all this fancy and shiny stuff? Did you experience, I'm curious, anything similar or different when you realized deeper what the When Women Speak is really about?
Yeah, how you describe that then, Karolina, is just perfection. You know, it sometimes has felt difficult to explain what When Women Speak is, because it seems to be a felt experience. But from whatever we shared, or from whatever knowing you have, you just described it. You just beautifully. But I'd love Nicola just to share what happens every time we at the start of a When Women Speak groups. Obviously at the moment they're all online, but we do also have in-person groups. So Nicola, share what happens every single time we have a group.
Every single time. So usually the night before, because we normally spend the night together before we have sleepovers, because we're a couple of hours apart where we live. Sara will say, "You're going to run the event tomorrow, aren't you? You're going to do it." So we have that discussion, which again is open for us to explore more, I think, definitely. And then we arrive, we welcome everyone in, we're both very jittery, and we're constantly just kind of checking in with one another. Right, what are we doing? Even though there's a format to When Women Speak groups that is powerful and simple and works every single time. It's amazing. It arrived organically, just like When Women Speak did. We go, we'll do it how we normally do it. And then the other one goes, okay, yeah, all right. Do we need to do anything else? No, I think we'll just do it how we normally do it. Okay. That's right. And then we get into it. Usually it's me that opens it. And I think that is worth just digressing slightly, because Sara called herself the nurturer, and also mentioned the word fire. And we've learned so much about one another over this year or so. And what we had a really honest conversation about at some point last year, I can't remember when it was, Sara, maybe before I kind of went on my break, but I realized that I had been trying to pull and push Sara into behaving in the way that I behave. So she would often say to me, "I don't think I want to be on the stage, Nicola. I don't think I want to be the voice of this. I think that needs to be you." And there'd be a little bit, of just, okay, all right, love, that's fine, but you're still going to do it, aren't you? You're still going to do it. So I even at one point literally did shove her on a stage and plonk her on a chair and say, right, Sara's going to talk to you, like 50 people in the room, which she was really uncomfortable with. And so now we've come to understand how to work with our characters, so that we can best support our audience. And we're really finessing that now. Like those stones are falling away from even more. And so at the beginning of these groups, when Sara turns to me and says, "You're going to do it, aren't you?" There's no more of, "No, you do it today." It's, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And a little bit of piss taking. And then I do it. And then we just fall into it. But we have to always feel whatever is being felt. It is always nerves. There's always, is this enough? Like, really? Because we're not giving them anything. We're not giving them anything. Like, we're literally giving them a couple of things that are basically variations on talking and listening. That's it. We're not even giving them questions. We're not giving them topics. We're not giving them pens or paper. They've got a chair, they've got a bit of water, and they've got themselves, and that's it. And every time, that simplicity is just magic, because it's just when women are speaking, but then there is no agenda, there is no expectation on them. They don't have to speak. And that's really beautiful. Sometimes women have commented on that and said, you know what, guys, I'm normally the one that like is the loudest and speaks up the most, and they say, I've sat here today and I've listened and it's been wonderful, thank you. So that's every group that Sara and I run every time, and it's a joy, it's so thrilling.
It is so thrilling, and that is the creativity when there is no agenda. It's really interesting how a group kind of still, there's often a main theme that still emerges from the collective, which is fascinating. So one of the groups, it was the mother wound that was the theme. Another group, it was injustice. Another group, I'm just trying to think what the Swansea one was. I think that was mainly about being seen as you are, wasn't it? A real kind of sense of being seen. But yeah, there's always something that emerges. I just picking up on that fear element that you mentioned, Karolina, is that I think when something is so simple and stripped back, it does feel edgy. And often, and I'm sure the dialogue that Nicola and I have about, maybe we need to give them something, is almost like we need to give them a band-aid, but also ourselves. We need to provide something so that this isn't so exposing.
God, I'm just going to write that down. Sorry. That's amazing.
Because there is a fear in being seen. And that's what we're inviting people to step into, to experience, is being seen by yourself first and foremost. I'm getting all chills just. Yeah.
And what comes to mind is like, when you are so exposed and nothing to kind of cover you, in a way, for me, it's creativity in the purest form, like the creativity of you, of your being expressed in the moment, without knowing where it will go, without needing to control it. And I can feel it, and I totally believe you that miracles happen in those moments. Yeah. Wonderful. You know, when I talk with different creators about creativity, I've noticed that on one side of the spectrum will be people who are very structured, and they like the structure. And on the other end will be people who are more about the flow and freedom of creation. And I understand that during the event, you don't want to have almost any structure, or just very, very, very simple structure, and just allow the purity of expression. And I'm wondering how it is about like the organizational aspect, because the meetings need to have like dates and locations and leaders, and they need to happen. So how do you dance around this? The simplicity of it and the flow of creativity, the organic growth, and sometimes needing to organize and plan.
Yeah, great question. And in part, that is still an organic process, and we're still kind of piecing that together and piecing it although it will always be a moving feast, which I think is important in any business, really, that you're not in any kind of fixed structure, and so that flexibility, I think, is well, it's a very feminine approach, isn't it, to just to always have that softening and that flow. But that does need some grounding as well. And yeah, and that's what we're kind of like making sure we've got a lovely balance of, which I feel that we do. And we have a leaders community, so that if you do have certain tendencies or skills in one area, and you know, aware that that's, you know, where you'll go to, that you're able to still be supported in all of the other aspects. So I think it's great that we do have that leaders community, so that people can be real, honest, and share in there. So there's the support there, mainly from Nicola, because Nicola is definitely strong in the masculine of being able to have structure and plans. And so, for example, in the leaders community, Nicola will come in and deliver trainings and things like that, whereas I'll be more of the nurturer in that group. So already we can see it totally makes sense for there to be two of us that are the custodians of When Women Speak, because we are bringing that balance to the organisation, and supporting then the leaders to have that balance within themselves, or how they can ensure that it happens at their groups as well. I don't know what else you want to add to that, Nicola.
Yeah, I was just pondering on the groups themselves and the change that we made recently, which was so there wasn't really a structured opening to the groups. There was an introduction, and you know, but what Sara noticed was, you might want to interject here, love, but like sort of untethered, you know, like it just felt like it go on, fill me in.
Well, so we held an event on International Women's Day, like we would, because it makes sense. So that was the 8th of March, and there was something. Nicola was supposed to be there actually, and was poorly, so I was on my own with a whole day. It was 2 groups back to back, so that was interesting. But what I noticed in that was, I didn't know people's names. There hadn't been an opportunity to check in with everybody, and it still worked perfectly. It's just magical When Women Speak groups. But one woman actually commented on how at the beginning she was adamant she wouldn't speak, because there's kind of 3 main parts to a When Women Speak in-person group, and the last part is the invitation to come up to the front and speak in front of the entire group, which, if you're not somebody that's ever done that, that could be like, what? And
you can say no to it, can't you?
Yeah, you can say no. Yeah. So there was somebody that stood up at the end, but they said, I don't even know why I'm doing this, because I was adamant that I was not going to do this. And I guess I felt I would have liked to have known about that at the beginning. So just with a simple check-in, when they kind of know what it's about, because sometimes people arrive and they don't even know what they've come to. They just felt the call to be there, and they have no idea why they're there, what it is, what's going to happen. And then after hearing kind of like the flavour of what's going to happen, I just felt we're missing just capturing, letting somebody actually speak what's emerging right now in the moment for them, and capturing that, and kind of them committing to the group, being present in the group in whatever way works for them. So that's the piece that we've introduced, is to make sure that there is this check-in of everybody into the group, and then also the completion at the end. Because also at the end of that particular group, I just felt that it was like, okay then, bye, and and slowly people kind of left. but it was the first time I kind of noticed, something just doesn't, I don't know why it happened on that particular day, but I just felt I missed there being a beginning and an end. So we introduced a check-in and kind of closure or completion, which I'd learned about years ago, which is interesting, isn't it? How we kind of, these things come to us from when I studied heart IQ, heart intelligence and heart circles. So I'd learned about it ages ago and promptly forgot.
But I love how the structure also emerged in a very organic way, but you observing and feeling, being present with your feelings, and then you knew what simple structure was needed. Beautiful. And I can imagine that if I was in an event, and I'm naturally more of an introvert, this kind of more formal opening when I need to kind of speak, introduce what's present in me, and then kind of structured ending would be supporting me, because otherwise it would be very easy for me perhaps not to speak, especially if the group was large. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, so I'd love to ask you also about you working together. I'm very curious. You mentioned, Nicola, that Sara was your coach some time ago, and now you're working together. The first question that I have, is it something that you intended before, that you wanted to be in a partnership, not wanting to be a solo coach, but working with someone else, and you were kind of actively looking for a partner, or again it just emerged?
I totally know Sarah's answer to this one.
Yeah, so I was being coached years ago, and in one of those sessions I had this vision of being on a stage in this gold dress looking out, and it was like a sea of women's faces. They were all smiling, and there was just such a sense of love and warmth in the room. But I also knew that I wasn't on my own. It wasn't me. It wasn't, although I was on the stage, it wasn't kind of my show type thing. I wasn't on my own, and I just had this strong sense that I had a business partner. And yeah, and then I must admit, I did go through a phase of almost like, like meeting people and thinking, I wonder if they will be my business partner. And the years rolled on, and I kind of stopped doing that because it was a bit weird. And it was 6 years from having that vision to then actually meeting Nicola, and it didn't dawn on me until, I suppose, we had that there was that realization that what Nicola was describing about the freedom factor and how there should be this type of group, and and then I was just like, oh, hang on, and then it started to dawn on me, this could be it. This could be.
When we had that initial conversation, so I'd said the thing about the freedom factor, and then you said, oh, funnily enough, 5 years ago, and then you said, I know a lady who runs groups and is part of an organization, maybe it'd be worth having a conversation with her. Would you like me to put you in touch? And so I said, yeah, fantastic, that sounds brilliant. And then I said, so when are you available? It was something along those lines, and you went, how about you book the call in with her, and if I can do it, I'll jump on. And I said, no, how about you tell me when you're available and we'll both have the call with her. And we've talked since about how that invitation for you was necessary to receive. Yeah. So it was no, you are invited on this call, and then you went, oh, okay then. Otherwise you weren't going to come in. And for me, Oh God, a partnership was my worst nightmare. Like, absolutely. Like, I no, not interested. This is the Nicola Snoad show. Thank you very much. I want to make all the decisions. And I remember, it feels very, it's difficult to, the emotion, I suppose, of it is gone now. But I remember that there was a lot of discomfort and I didn't quite know how to operate, because I had gone from making every decision and just like that to all of a sudden believing I couldn't do that. And one of the instances I remember was because I found a lot of stuff difficult in 2019. Like it was a bit of a shit show, to be honest. Like behind the scenes, so much happened that was obviously wonderful, but was very difficult and uncomfortable. And Sara was like by my side the whole time. She was incredible and is incredible. One of the things I said to her was, I just can't make decisions. I can't make decisions. I don't know how to make decisions in the business anymore, because I kind of had this idea that I'd have to run everything by Sara. And she went, well, and I said I didn't think it was my business. And she went, why don't you think it's your business? And why can't you make decisions? And pointed out to me that this wasn't that kind of partnership. This was for us both, and this was for both of us to grow and both of us to fall even more deeply into what works for both of us as well as for the organization. And slowly but surely we've found, I think now, like, it's just gorgeous the way we communicate, which is daily and all the time. And the way we make decisions. Yes, definitely there's a lot of, right, how are we going to do this, and this is an idea, and shall we do this? But there's also a lot of, like, we do things and we don't run them by one another because we don't need to. I don't run by the daily content that I put on the Facebook page by by Sara. Sara doesn't run by what she's doing in the leaders community with me. At the moment, Sara's working on our podcast. I don't really know what's going on with it, but I know she'll come to me if she wants my input. So the level of, I don't want to use the word trust, because I think with trust there's some kind of expectation, and there's obviously a flip side, but it's just what's the word I'm looking for, Sara, that sums it up?
I think because When Women Speak, in a way, is its own thing. We just know what to do. And also we have clear permission to mess up.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't recall that it's happened. Maybe it has. I don't recall that it's happened. But, if Nicola was to put a post up and I just, and I felt that's not when women, that's not when women speak. And, and I said, and I would say to her, what are you saying? Why are you saying that? And if she kind of then was like, oh, saw it, yeah, we just change it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's been incidents of us saying, apologies, shouldn't have done that, or do you know what I mean? Because we're modeling that the creative process can be very messy.
And full of typos, eh? That's one thing she does. Right, constantly is she will screenshot my writing and put red circles. She's got this incredible eye, and I actually really grateful for her proofreading eyes. They're ridiculous. They're like laser.
Not on my own stuff.
Not on her own stuff.
I don't see my own typos, just other people.
When I can do that back to her, I relish in that. When I can screenshot something she's written and put circles on it, it's brilliant. It's a good day, that.
Wow, I can sense how much love and fun and great energy is between the two of you. And it's so beautiful that you are allowing each other and yourselves to be who you are, that you don't need to force the other one to be the same, but you are just having both the permission to be yourselves, because this is the greatest gift to the partnership, isn't it? Wow, gorgeous, sounds really gorgeous. And I want to emphasize the permission to mess up and to make mistakes. That's so crucial, so essential.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Oh, so I would love to ask also each of you about creating in general. What do you love most about creating?
It's got to be the unknown, the diving into the unknown. That in whatever it might be, cooking, obviously before you start cooking there's no meal. And by the end of it there is, and the process that you go through getting there. I actually sent something to Nicola the other day which I was quite pleased about.
Oh yeah.
So Nicola was putting together a little video based on some reflections that I'd had. We put I'd put a question out into a large group of 29,000 people, asking, would anyone care to comment on why many women find it easier to write than to speak out loud? And there's comments are still coming in. There's, I think, about 250 comments now. And I wrote some reflections on the themes of the comments coming through, and then Nicola turned that into a video. And the first part of the video was just like real ease. It just kind of like just happened. That feeling of, the creative process where it just suddenly is there. This something new is suddenly there, and you don't even know how, how it happened. So that bit had occurred. And then the final part of kind of just refining and just getting it quite right, I got the sense, even energetically, that it was now starting to feel a little bit like pulling teeth. It's just like, oh man, the creative part's been done. Now what are we doing? And I sent Nicola a message about saying how, this is like this is like birthing. It's the afterbirth now. The baby's already here, but this is an important part. And also remember, this is the part that fed the baby in the first place. And I wrote that. I was just like, oh, I'm really pleased with myself. So I must admit, I enjoy watching the creative process in other people. So I used to work for Arts Council England, and getting to work with artists and work with directors of art organisations. And my husband's a musician and a record producer, and I get to watch Nicola create. And I must admit, that is, for me, what I enjoy more than creating myself. I enjoy watching the creative process. And if I have the privilege to be involved in if someone invites me into that creative process, yes, please. So that's where I feel I fit within. I'm a supporter of the creative process, like the holder of space, I guess. Letting someone really see what they're capable of.
So wonderful for a creative person to have someone like you, the nurturer. And it is also very creative to be a nurturer, because you need to see what the person maybe cannot see yet, their strengths, for instance, or something is happening, and you just, I don't know, support it. It's a lot of kind of flow and beautiful feminine energy dancing there. And I'm finding this process very creative also, like the dance of the fire that knows what to burn away, purify, giving the warmth. And the cooking, yes, the cooking couldn't, the soup or the whatever meal, it couldn't burn without it couldn't be cooked without the fire. That is the nurturing warmth. Wonderful. Thank you for this metaphor. Wonderful. What about you, Nicola? What do you enjoy or love most about creating?
I love the moment that an idea or a thought lands, that it just seems to be one that kind of sticks and feels. There's an aliveness, like that aliveness when your tummy goes light and your heart starts to beat faster, and you just, like I feel not weightless, but I certainly feel like so much of the weight in my body has lifted when a thought or an idea like that lands. So it, you know, felt like that with the video when I said, well, I'm going to make I'll make a video with all of that content that Sara sent to me about whether women whether they prefer writing to speaking. And the same with any of my writing or videos or the images that I create. And along with that, it's the permission that there's no limit. So I sent a message to Sara a couple of days ago, which for some reason I've been forgotten. But one of the things that I used to do and that was so joyful in my previous business was to just create when I felt like creating. So it wouldn't matter if an idea for a blog post arrived in the morning and then another one in the afternoon. I'd just write the afternoon one too. I'd just write them. If they landed and they felt alive, I'd just write. And then for some reason that stopped. And I don't quite understand why. And then there became this rule that I can only write one piece a day. It's probably kind of all tied in with, you know, the balance of our lifestyles changed. So I'm much more of a mother now. I was working full time on my business then. I'm having to really kind of reduce my working hours to make sure, you know, that it works for us as a family and for us as a business. And so then this like really tricksy rule came in of you can't do more than one thing a day because you'll start to resent your business and that's not allowed and all these things. And but I've noticed that it's the desire to create more than one thing a day is coming back. And it's so thrilling. I love it. And it's remembering there's permission there to do that. That's okay. I love that can happen. It doesn't have to be saved, you know? It doesn't have to be like, oh, that'll be my project for tomorrow, because probably by tomorrow that's fizzled a little bit. And one of the things I used to say when I was a business coach to my clients was give your best stuff away and more will come. Because I think we're very frightened of creating something. There's this fear that will be it, that will empty. And that will be our creativity gone. It's like that feeling. It's not necessarily those words, but it's that feeling. And that I need to remember what the idea is, because otherwise I'm not going to have another idea for tomorrow and there'll be nothing to create tomorrow. But actually, if I just pull that stopper out, if I let the stopper be pulled out, it's just going to keep flowing. It won't stop. I'm not going to empty of creativity. I can't that's freaking impossible anyway, because I don't own creativity. You know? So that's wonderful to know that, to remember that is fantastic.
Yes, that's beautiful. And I can sense the joy, the butterflies in the stomach when the idea comes. And do I understand correctly that in order for also the acting on it, the writing or the making the video, to feel joyful, you kind of need to act on the idea when it comes. If you put it for later, it loses its juice in a way.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes no. So it's not all the time. I mean, I definitely have ideas that poke me. When Women Speak didn't go away, even though we weren't taking action on it. Like that stayed and that poked, and that was completely persistent and irritating sometimes. It doesn't feel like that anymore, but it was initially. I wasn't going anywhere. But yeah, there is something about acting on that aliveness. Yeah. And that doesn't, I think it's remembering about the creative process that it doesn't stay like that the whole time. So the last video that Sara talked about, it took me 2 days. Obviously in between I'm tending to my children and I'm chatting with my husband and I'm eating and I'm doing all these things. So it wasn't solid, 16 hours, but it took me 2 days to do, and it was a slow and steady process, and my back started to hurt at various points because I was sitting down at my laptop, and for sometimes it took me like an hour to find an appropriate image, but I knew I hadn't found it yet, so I just kept going. And it didn't get annoying, but the initial feeling had worn off. But I wasn't going to stop.
Because
I was going to start.
Yeah.
Because it had started. So it's like, as Michael Neal says, you stop when you decide it's time to stop.
Mm.
And I decided I'd stop when I'd finished the video.
Yeah.
You know?
So simple and so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it doesn't have to feel no feeling is sustainable. It's just the way it is. Doesn't mean that our project doesn't mean anything about our creative project at all. And I love the stories from authors about how painful, you know, the process of creating a book can be. Like, there's a wonderful quote of an author, I think she's a journalist, and she says, writing's easy, you just stare at a piece of plain paper until drops of blood start to form on your forehead. Like, yeah, because sometimes it's like that.
Yeah. I love how you're blending together or allowing space for both the joy, the excitement of creativity, the ease of it, and that sometimes it goes slowly and it's painful, but it's up to you to decide when you're done. Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm sure that some people who are watching or listening are very curious now about when women speak, and if they would like to find out more, how can they do it?
Oh, are you pointing to me? It looks like you're pointing to Karolina because she's down there on my screen. Okay.
No, Nicola is best suited to all of the kind of the tech stuff. So if I try and if I say it, I'll probably get it wrong. Where you can find us.
Right, so let's go for it. So we have a wonderful Facebook group that is an absolute joy to be a part of, and in there we encourage women to show up and express themselves. Of course, listening and lurking. We have a problem with lurking. You can lurk to your heart's content in our Facebook group. That's what it's all about as well. You'll know when you're ready to share, but that space is there to encourage you to share. So we have obviously the space is open all the time, but on a Wednesday and a Friday we have particular themes. So on Wednesday it's Written Word Wednesday, so you can come in and you can share your words, you can write something. On Friday it's a Short Share Friday where we encourage you to go live. You can do those things anytime. Our Facebook page, that's called When Women Speak. Our Facebook page is When Women Speak Global Network. We have at the moment, so I don't know it's terrible that I don't know the address, but within the group there's a link to a free ebook that we have at the moment available called The Myth of Mindset. So if you click on the link that is in the announcements at the top of the group, then you can download The Myth of Mindset. It's an awesome book. It's a 5-star Amazon rated book that was created in a day, actually. That's a whole other story. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, those are the spaces at the moment. We have a lot of online groups that are springing up, so keep an eye on the page for those. There'll be some more coming up over the next few weeks, and they're free to join. Obviously our in-person groups will be back when COVID-19 has passed.
I can't believe I'm reminding you of Instagram.
Well, I did just say it quietly then because I knew you were going to say it. I was like, I know what she's saying. So I just did Instagram. At Instagram, which at the moment, I must admit, I want to just be really honest about Instagram. There's not a real kind of purpose to our Instagram at the moment, and we're very conscious that When Women Speak is a platform for women's voices, and so we're always looking at how can we be more of a platform for women's voices. And so we're going to be launching something. Well, Sarah's going to be launching the podcast, but on Instagram we're going to be launching a initiative a little bit like Humans of New York, which is going to be an insight into normal women's lives, extraordinary, ordinary women's lives, with photographs of them and their words, just an insight, a little window. And that's going to be that's going to form a part of our Instagram grid. And yeah, so keep an eye out for that. So at the moment, it's a little apology that our Instagram's a bit shit. But our stories are fantastic, so watch our stories.
But Nicola, what we must share is, and oh my goodness, off the back of what I shared with Nicola about this came the most delicious post. It's phenomenal. I would urge anyone. I asked Nicola if she'd turn it into a blog post because it's brilliant. But basically, we just had a round of inviting people into the leadership community. So that's where the leadership community is for you first and foremost, but then it's also a space where you can learn about setting up and running your own When Women Speak groups. But the community itself also, you know, you're having peer-to-peer support in there with your other work and businesses, and there's, you know, it's your own When Women Speak group. Anyway, Nicola has put together the members area, and I was looking through it, and it is just amazing, considering that, you know, we are a new organisation. We're a not-for-profit as well. We didn't mention that, do we? We're not-for-profit organisation, and we're, you know, still growing. So that members area is phenomenal. You can feel the love, the attention. Sorry, I'll get emotional because it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And at the moment, our leadership community is still small. It is global. We are a global network, but it is small. And we just feel that more women need to be in there and need to be experiencing this. And like I say, on the back of me kind of sharing this emotional message to Nicola, this post then emerged where she was just basically saying to people, get in on this, and describing what When Women Speak is. And oh my goodness, the fire, the of what When Women Speak is all about is there to be learned about. So I think we're going to open the leadership community for recruitment again fairly soon, aren't we?
Yeah, mid-May is the plan.
Yeah. But it is the place to be if there's going to be an unshamed. What's the word? What's the
word is?
Shameless. If there's going to be
unshamed.
If there's going to be a shameless plug, it is to come and be part of the leadership community, for sure.
Wonderful. And I will include all the links in the description of this video. And gorgeous. So I understand that When Women Speak as a platform, as a Facebook group, is for all women who desire the connection with other women, who want to be themselves, share, support other women. And also there is opportunity for those who want to facilitate their own groups to become leaders. Is it correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're here to nurture leaders and leaders of families, leaders in any capacity. We're not encouraging you to run for Prime Minister. We're encouraging you to show up and use your voice, and that is leadership. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up, Sara?
Only to add just what a beautiful interview this has been, and just how intuitive you are, Karolina, with, you know, what you're hearing and embodying and then reflecting back. I just found that exquisite. So thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you so much. Is there anything from you, Nicola, that you want to add?
I echo Sara's words, and the opportunity to talk about creativity has been really, really lovely, a really refreshing approach to a conversation. So it's been really beautiful to reflect on. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. It was a joy and pleasure. And to see your interaction and the beautiful energy between the two of you, it's joy. I'm feeling kind of energized now. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.